Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Upzone. Politics is made simple. We are your three hosts, Mr. Elmer, former House Representative for the 43rd District. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
sir. Mr. Theodore Ted Moan, former City Council member for the 9th District.
Eight.
8th District. I was just playing. I just wanted to make sure you remembered. And
Yeah.
Tisha Eswajo, former City Council member for the 3rd District. Listen. So we are going to just jump right into the gritty in the city and the word on the curb. But before we do that, guys, did you enjoy your Father's Day?
Yes.
Great, great.
Were you able to catch any of the Juneteenth celebrations?
I did. And that was
Good
great.
deal.
Both of them. The one
How
that
about
Nero
you, Ted?
had
Did you make it out to Miss Floyd? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
the one at the festivity park, and also the one that Nero had on I think it was Newark Street.
Where was Nero's at? I didn't hear about his.
Yeah, on Newark Street, right across from Seabrook Rec Center.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nero B. Coleman. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Good guy.
Well, I think I said this once before, but I'm gonna say it again. Y'all know Nero was the originator in Fayetteville of the celebration for Juneteenth. So I think it stands to reason that he should most certainly get a shout out for the continuity in keeping Juneteenth going for the city of Fayetteville. And he should be remembered when it comes to, the work that was done to get us to this point in the city where it is now a national holiday. So
Yeah.
shout out to you, Nero B. Coleman. We certainly appreciate you carrying that torch as long as you did, and that you continue to do that. And even if the city didn't work with you, we still acknowledge you and say, "Way to go, sir!" And thank you, Mr. Floyd, for supporting Nero B. Coleman's activity. We appreciate
You're
that,
quite well.
Yep.
and for showing up on behalf of Upzone because I didn't go anywhere. I was at home. How about you, Ted?
Yeah. I watched video clips on YouTube, on Facebook. I mean, but it was a good turnout from what I could tell.
Good deal. So let's just jump in. Like I said, the city they did something that is not abnormal, but certainly for me it always raises eyebrows. But they went ahead and passed the budget during a special meeting instead of waiting until Monday for the council meeting. Let's talk about that, guys. Before we get started, though, if you see me twist my face up, Mr. Floyd, I'm trying the coffee like how you said. I'm trying it black. I don't know about this. So if my face does this while I'm drinking my coffee, it's because I don't have any cream in here,
Uh,
but I'm giving it a shot.
uh,
Thank you, Tish.
yeah, mine is black. Also, I don't put any cream or sugar or anything.
I don't I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense. But let's talk about this budget, which may or may not make sense. Where are we at with it? And these are the final numbers. So if you are tuning in today, please know that this is your 2023-2024 budget. The final numbers. It has been approved, sealed, stamped, delivered. It's yours.
Right. And so, I had done some Facebook posts. So yesterday, once the city adopted the budget, that begins July 1st, I deleted those other posts where I had the older charts. So that way people, if they go to my Facebook page, this is what was approved. So yesterday they had like you said, a specially called budget meeting. It was scheduled for 12 o'clock. It was on Channel 7 on Spectrum, and it was on their Fay TV Live. Um, Now, there's no cameras in the room on these, but you could hear everybody talk, and the presentations were set.
Hmm.
So what this is the final, based on what was passed yesterday. So when the Mr. Manager Doug Hewitt first presented his budget, he had a total of 7 cents tax increase, on your property. 4.2.
He's going all in.
Yeah.
They
Well, and that's what managers do. They aim high
go
because they
all in.
know. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it, we've all been through it before.
That's right.
So yeah, so it was originally 7 cents with 4.25 cents for the 97 million bond referendum. And now it's down to 4 cents, and I think uh, 2.25 cents is still for the bond. So they're going to borrow the 60 million for public safety. I think that was pretty evident. They're holding off borrowing anything on the 12 million for housing because they don't have any qualified projects at this time, and the city council still has 6 years, well 7 years from last November when they passed. Um, Instead of borrowing 25 million in the public infrastructure, for roads and
Right.
intersections and stuff, they increased the vehicle license plate fee by $20 per license plate, and what that allows is that would um, bring in just about $2.6 million annually, throughout the year, as the three of us do our taxes and tags together. And so that additional 2.6 million just from vehicle license tax will pay the the debt service on the 25 million that they would have borrowed, plus give them about $750,000 more, uh, that they can, like we talked last week, that can go, well, has to go to road improvements like our Powell bill money that we get from the state, the gasoline tax and
Hmm.
stuff. So on the chart, if you look at the $100,000 house, with the 4 cent property tax, that means you're
Before
going to
you
pay.
go into that, Ted, let me pause you just a second because this is what I heard you just say. I heard you say that of the three bond packages that the voters approved, because the voters approved three bond packages, they approved infrastructure, they approved public safety, and they also approved the housing bond
Hmm.
package. 60 million was for public safety, which included 30 million for a 911 call center, which we won't get into that again, but if you got some questions, go back and watch a previous episode. 25 million was for street resurfacing, sidewalk pavement, sidewalks, um, improvements, roadway improvements. And then 12 million was for the housing for it.
Hmm.
I want to call it affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I just heard you say is of the three bond packages, the only bond package that is currently moving forward is public safety.
Um, in terms of borrowing the money, yes, public safety.
Yes. So
So.
and everything else is just going to be kind of piecemeal together from the different tax. I heard you saying is where they getting the money for infrastructure is by increasing the vehicle registration fee.
Right, right,
Okay.
right. So they
Now,
don't have to borrow that money. Yeah.
but here's the issue. As it stands, there there's already a limited amount of money for street resurfacing and for road.
Hmm.
And with that limited amount of money, that was why there was this push. And this is my stick point, y'all. Because that of the three, that would have been the only one I would have supported. So this is my sticking point. Infrastructure has been one of the biggest needs, the most critical needs in the city of Fayetteville for a long time. Because of my
Hmm.
fight and my push, we saw money incrementally being placed into infrastructure over the last 4 or 5 years. Well, now we're seeing in this budget that the city, the 850,000 from the Plan Act money, that ARPA money, from infrastructure improvements. So they're moving 800 from infrastructure improvements to provide $600,000 in operating funds for the Day Resource Center for 2 years, $150,000 for the Phoenix Center for 2 years, and
Hmm.
$100,000 for the development of an environmental sustainability plan, which who knows what that is, right? Redirecting $850,000. They're not taking out the box infrastructure and their vehicle registration. So that's pretty much going to be a wash if nothing else, because $150,000 more funding coming from that as a direct result of that increase. Is that accurate?
Right. So there's roughly 2.6 million. generated from the vehicle tax.
But that's standard. That's as is, right?
No, that's the increase.
Okay.
You know, each $5 was something like you know 650 or $700,000. So we currently, or the council currently uses 4.8, close to 5 million in power bill money from the
Elbow
state
money.
for
Mhm.
right. And so this is going to be annually in perpetuity, 2.6 million, um, that goes right back into that street fund. So they they have a list of projects already for infrastructure.
Right.
They've known this for years, and so they can continue doing their street resurfacing with the power bill money. And now every year they're estimating an additional 2.6 million on top of that 4.8, 4.9 million for power bill money. So they're going to use this additional 2.6 million annually to start working off the list of projects that they had from the bond referendum. um, and in the end they don't have to pay interest because they got money coming straight in, with the license plate. So it may take a little longer for those bond projects, but they have a
Used for anything other than street resurfacing and sidewalk?
it's road related. Yeah, multi-purpose lanes. I think we had 50 or $100,000 a year for those white lines, in the residential neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
uh so power bill has to go to the road, road network,
Mm-hmm.
city road network, not state road network. And that could include the purchase of vehicles to support
Right.
that. you know uh so
But it has a broader
yeah,
scope than maybe the bond would have had.
potentially, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah,
It- uh,
I'm not mad at this budget. I wouldn't have voted for it, but I'm not mad at this budget. Mr. Floyd, how do you feel about that infrastructure aspect and about that public safety, about them going ahead and moving forward with the 60 million for the public safety?
I think it's a good budget for those who vote.
for those who vote, the 10%.
Break that down.
It's a, it's a good budget for those that vote. If you
Leave this
look at it,
graphic up, Ted, because we're gonna come right back to it. Break that down, Mr. Floyd.
well, if you look at, one of the things that people really looked at the November ballot was housing. You all said affordable. I use the word housing instead of affordable. But that is taken off the agenda. You put it on as a referendum. Now you're saying to the public that you have no vision or no plan at this moment, so you're not moving forward on that. So it's a good budget there for those who vote. Then again, you're talking about some kind of way you went because person as it relates to transit. You increased transit, but I think it's like eight some million. Then you went down to 8.2 million for transit. There you lowered that. Then some kind of way you found $500,000 for the next 5 years to provide funding for the out,
Cape Fear
down.
Regional Theater.
Yeah, and then again, I think that when Senator DeVille was there, he brought in $15 million for them. Now they showed up to the council strong.
Hmm.
Those who are not that and have a need show up to the council meeting, and it's sort of democracy at its best. So that's my thought about it. It's a good budget for those that vote.
Yeah. So the bottom line of this chart, if we look at the $100,000 house, the value, including that's the house, the land, whatever. Um, Solid waste increased $40 a year. Vehicle license plate, $20 a year. In the light blue is the county um, solid waste increase, $37. So in the bottom yellow, total increase coming this year to $100,000 house is $137, annually. Everything will be on your property tax except for the $20 license plea. That'll be on your taxes and tags. And so for the city of Fayetteville, $100,000 house, $100 increase came from the city of Fayetteville City Council, and the $37 came from Cumberland counties for the landfill, tipping fees, expansion, and that. Um, and so both boards, um, managers, the county and the city manager, had a higher increase recommended for solid waste, as did the county commissioners. County commissioners cut it in half. It was going to be $74 a month recommended, I mean, a year, and county commissioners reduced that in half to $37. And then for the solid waste, originally it was going to be like a $60 increase from 225 to 285, and council uh, backed that off by a third, basically, from $60 to $40 a year.
So the
So
members who voted no for this budget were Johnny and Dino Hondros. Any indication as to why they were voting no for this budget?
not really, because what happened is they they agreed to reduce the property tax from 4.25 to 4. So then they went into a recess, like we have done at council meetings. We go recess or work sessions to allow staff to update the budget ordinance that they, remember when we vote for the budget, we want to, increase fee increase. You got the capital improvement plan, the, information technology. So they had to get all that language. And so then I had my TV running, and I never heard them come back into open session. So I emailed, I sent some text messages to Mayor Pro Tem, uh, and also to the city clerk, asking if I could, do a records request to, get a copy of the budget ordinance. And so I found out afterwards that it was Johnny Dawkins, Mayor Pro Tem, who told me that he and Dino Hondros did not vote for the budget, but he didn't give any indication why. So I really don't know why. But it's not uncommon where I think there's only maybe one time I was on council that there was a unanimous vote. It was always
Mhm,
9
mhm.
1, 8 2, 7 3, or something like that. So uh, nothing unusual happened yesterday when it came to the vote. It's I voted no one time just because I disagreed with a lot of a tax increase or something. I forget the exact reason, but and I believe you voted against budgets before. Also, it's individual council members. You vote what you think.
Absolutely. The reason I asked that question is because I always think that it's very interesting to hear why a council. And Mr. Crisp told me one time, once we vote, we don't ask each other why. Was what it was, and I told agree with that because I think that the people deserve to understand why we do what we do. Because sometimes in the why, there's an explanation of the what. And
Hmm.
so I'd be very interested, and I'll probably reach out to one, if not both of them, at some point over the next couple of days to find out what was your hesitation with this budget because they hear what we don't hear. They see what we're not privy to. And I would just like to know what it was that gave them pause. I know that Johnny is a Republican. Republicans are typically solidly against tax increases. So that may have been they don't mind fees, but no tax. So that might be why I know that Dino's base is Republican, while Dino himself is not a Republican. I know that his base is very Republican, and so that may be also. I'm not sure, but I'm interested in knowing, and I probably will ask because I've always been Like I
Yeah,
said, I'm not mad at this budget. I do think we'll continue to watch and see what's going to happen over the next few years because beginning. We've all said it once or twice or 10 times that we should expect to see more increases over the course of the next few years based upon the trajectory of the city's losses in revenue and based upon the borrowing that's happening. So I think we're open and we see what's going to happen. The council for pushing back 7 cents. That 7 cents would have been a serious hit to a community that cannot really afford right now. Going to be some people that feel
Teach,
it's going to
teach,
go ahead, sir.
teach, and I commend you for your words out there. But you are pausing now, but believe me, these are going to come back in future budget years at a much higher rate. So
For sure.
commend, commend now, but there's going to be a lot of disappointment as the years go forward with how to balance uh, the uh, the city budget when we could do it now, and we are going to pass this on to future council persons to make those decisions. So we're gonna see a greater increase as years move forward.
yeah, and
Saw your finger go up.
right, and the city manager has been very consistent during these budget meetings, and uh, I try to go back, re-listen to it yesterday, but I couldn't find it, on their webpage as of like 5 o'clock last night. But I remember when I was listening yesterday, Doug Hewitt said, "If you all think this is a difficult budget this year, next year might be impossible," or something. I'm paraphrasing. So he's been telling them, this is 3 years to get to fiscal year or calendar year 20, well, with a 25-26 budget when the full ad valorem tax or the sales tax agreement kicks in. So he's been very consistent. So whoever this next council, when they get elected, they're going to have to go through two budgets, and they're going to be difficult budgets, just like this one was. And city manager has been telling that this is a 3-year glide path to get
Right.
to that.
Upward.
Yeah,
Right.
upward. Yeah. So
I'm
it's
here that y'all have never heard me say, but I'm
hmm,
gonna say it now. That every single member of this council is real.
hmm,
I hope they
reelected.
all come back and I hope they all have to deal with this year's budget. I want to see how that. And at this point, listen, I've told y'all at this point, whoever runs, it's going to be what it's going to be. But I hope that every single person on this council is reelected. I want to see how they handle next year's budget. I'm looking forward to that. Mr. Floyd, you have
Chief,
any
thank
final
you for
thoughts on
your
the
again, Chief. Thank you for your compliment. Thank you for your word of kindness. But there will be greater fees, not taxes now, in the upcoming budgets. Wherever
yeah,
they get a fee increase, you would see these increase and offsetting that tax increase, and then you would see a small tax increase to offset. But when you lose $9 to $12 million that you know you're gonna lose when the 24, 26, you know you're gonna lose that piece. And on top of that, you have a housing bond issue that you want to look at. That communication call center infrastructure, all of these things, it's going to mount up, and it's going to be what some say a perfect storm.
but I
and
also think, Mr. Floyd, and I know I'm sorry, Ted, I'll give me just two
go ahead.
like 30 seconds. I also think that I know it sounded like I'm jesting when I say I hope everybody comes back. I think in instances like this, we can value equity because a council that has gone through this budget process should don't say is, but should be hyper aware of the of what this all means. They should understand this in a way because Ted, if you and I would have been sitting in those seats, we would have had a completely different conversation based upon our historical reference.
Mm-hmm.
This council will have a different understanding than new people coming in the door. What all of this, the gravity of all of this. And so I think at a time like this, even if they're still relatively newer people are going to, and the same way how we were scratching our heads trying to figure out why these folks didn't understand the basics of this budget, we'll be doing that over again, but with the that of this historical information. So I think that in continuity is such a bad thing. So I am not I'm not one way or I will certainly say that I do believe that this moment and keep dealing with this budget and they need to keep having to make these decisions and y'all the people can decide how that's going to look when it's time to vote.
Right, and like you said, we had four members this year that this was their first budget because of delayed elections.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking a lot of good questions. They reminded me of myself when I was first, doing a budget. So there is some worth with some, you know, uh, continuity, as you say. And like Mr. Floyd said, if you look at the chart, um, $40, 4 cent increase, it's going to go up again. Um, City manager knew what he was doing when he was asking, for a increase. Solid waste fee, it was supposed to be 200, go up $60, and then a year later, I think 2 years later, another $10. So those fee increases are coming, and you look at the
Right.
yeah, you look at the county solid waste. That county manager asked for $74, and the county commissioners uh, cut it in half. As it get closer to that landfill extension,
That's
and
going up too.
it's gonna go, yeah, and well, vehicle tax, it's maxed out unless the state uh, general assembly increases the max, all the way up to $30. We were already at 10. Now
Now we're
we're
there. So they
now
can't mess
now
with
we're
that anymore.
yeah, and then
Oh. I want to
and
switch
then
gears. Switch gears, you guys, because I think that we've given a pretty good understanding of the budget. I think if people don't get it, they ain't gonna get it. If they want to
mhm.
understand more, they can ask us questions, but they are elected officials and dig in. I want to switch gears and I want to move on up to Raleigh. I want to talk about what we saw happen yesterday with the transgender sports ban bill. So the first time that this came around, our senator was absent for the vote. And so
Yes,
we had something to look forward to yesterday, which was to see where Senator Val Applewhite stood on this. And y'all know I give people a hard time, but I will give you your flowers when it's time for you to get your flowers. I want to take a moment and thank Senator Val Applewhite for standing with women and saying no. She voted yes to support the ban on transgender, on biological males in female sports. And I just want to say thank you.
yeah.
Ted, Mr. Floyd, talk us through.
Um, yeah, I'll just go quick. So I updated my chart. I have Val, Diane Wheatley, and McGinnis on the left side that have now formally voted. Um, uh, Representative Lucas, he's back in the General Assembly. So when this goes back to the House, the updated bill, uh, if he's there, we'll know how he votes. And then you've got Mr. Smith and Mrs. Jackson, who previously the old version of the House bill voted no. So it'll be interesting to see with the updated bill, does Mr. Smith and Mrs. Jackson, do they vote yes? Like the half of our delegation has, or do they vote no again? And so um, I'm just waiting for it to go back to the House because they had to reconcile the House and the Senate bill, and so we still don't know how Mr. Lucas, and I believe Mr. Lucas, representative, wasn't he an educator for years and years and years? Mr. Floyd would
That's
know
his
that.
field. That's his
Yeah,
field about.
yeah, and I didn't know this, but Sonia Cooper, Spring Lake alderman,
Mhm.
that's her uncle. She
Sure is.
yeah, she told me that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Sure is. Now I'm hoping that Senator Applewhite will walk on over to where Smith and Jackson are and have a little chat with them and let them know how we the people in Cumberland County are supporting the fact that she voted yes to support this ban and that she will encourage them to follow suit because most certainly this will speak volumes to the type of support that they can expect to receive from women like me because we don't want to see biological males participating in sports with our daughters. We want these opportunities that our daughters have to excel athletically to remain opportunities for them. And so most certainly, and especially those of us who have participated in athletics and we recognize the value of being able to say you're the best at something and then having that snatched from you by somebody that you physically just cannot compete with. So I'm hoping that there's some conversations going on, that there are people from the community reaching out to both Smith and Jackson, Representative Smith and Jackson, and just letting them know, hey, we really want you to support this ban
Hmm.
because we don't need unfairness in women's sports.
Yeah, and
Teach. Well, today I'm going to agree with you. There are conversations going on, and that is on the House side, wherein that some members of the House have I'm being has spoken with the executive branch staff and said this is the person, governor, that you supported, that you said that is the best to help you to move your agenda forward. Look at what has transpired. And so we're asking you as it go forward into the next year election, perhaps governor or executive branch, you might want to review her voting record.
Well, she has to, but she's also having to dig herself out from under his shadow at this point because of that. And so this is, even if it's just a strategic move to do that, which I'm going to say this, I think that Val Applewhite has demonstrated less strategy and um more statement than anything. I don't, she's not shown me herself to be strategic. She's shown me herself to be statement. And what I mean by that is what she thinks, feels, believes, she says.
I'm
And
just
she
saying to
shows.
you, Chief. I'm just expressing to you is how the system operates.
But that's what I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. And I think that this because what I was gonna say was this could have been a strategy to dig herself out, but I don't think it was. I think it was a statement to say, this is how I feel about this, and this is where I stand on this issue. So I don't know if, and it had to cross her mind, Mr. Floyd, because she saw it happen to you, she saw it happen to Kirk. So it had to cross her mind that when I make this vote, I become an enemy of the state, essentially.
You're correct.
yeah, yeah,
You're
and
correct. Good on you.
oh, well, Val, we got elected together. Our son, her son Joseph and Damani, and my
He's
son.
an athlete.
Yeah, yeah, and they all went to school together at Westover. And then Joseph is an officer in the Air Force. Got his pilot's license. He was in the band, the Westover band. Um, Damani, the younger son, was a standout basketball player. I mean, he's like 6'5", and then he
Mhm.
went and he played pro basketball overseas.
Yeah, she raised a man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so and her husband Ken, big guy. He's like, I'm 6'2.5". He's like 6'5".
Val is
Um,
married?
no, she was.
Oh.
Well, he was when we got elected. When we got
Okay.
elected,
Okay.
right? And I don't get into people's business, but
Yeah, because that's their business. Yeah, that's their business.
right. So, um, raising her sons, and they were like my son. Athletic. They, if any one of them thought they were queer or gay, I just don't see. Val or I allowing our sons to play on a women's sports team. I mean, they're
Right.
so I with Val having two boys or they're men now.
And with her
Um,
being a woman,
right,
right.
right, right. So I I I I, I kind of agree. With both of you guys that I believe that's what she believes
That's
in.
how she really feels. Yeah.
Yeah, and so almost without doubt, the governor is going to veto this this bill. I just because it's really close. It's right along partisan lines, and so if this bill passes, which it will most likely, and if he vetoes, then we need to look at our local delegation to who stands up and votes for the bill again, or votes not to override the governor's veto. So that I think
Yeah.
that'll be the final vote. Should the governor veto it, we then look at our local delegation to see who voted to override the veto on this bill, or go with the governor again, like
We'll
they
be
did
watching.
the other day. Yeah.
We'll be watching. Now, Mr. Floyd, you were bringing up the voter ID bill. So let's talk. Why are you smiling? What? Go ahead.
You will see arm twisting to get those individuals to hold the party line again because communication is going to go back and they will be targeted for not supporting the will of the party.
They better
There's
support the will of the people.
five individuals are going to communicate with the other 42, 47 caucus members and also with the governor's staff is to look at these individuals who are not supporting your agenda, not the people agenda now, but the executive branch agenda. So that's just my comment.
I got it. Tell us about this, Floyd.
Well, as you know, across the country and in North Carolina, there's numerous of bills that being passed as it relates to. Some people call it voter confidence or voter integrity, whichever. And this one, and I've been trying to wrap my mind around how can the board of elections get ballots before 7:30 on the election night. uh, uh, Usually the post office closes at a certain time. So are they going to make a special run across the 100 counties to make sure that the Board of Election get those ballots in by 7:30 on election day? It used to be, and Ted worked there, 3 days in order to have your ballot counted. Now they're saying that same day, and now if you want a provision same day registration, you're gonna have to do a provisional, and that provision will require you to do certain things in order to have your ballot counted. But the canvass is done 10 days after the election, and that is to certify whether all votes are accurate or not. And so the same day at 7:30 doesn't make any sense when you have a canvas.
If you got 60 days to mail in your ballot, last day being your day.
Well, if you understand the U.S. postal system, is why they are. I agree with you. If you understand the U.S. postal system, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Right.
Because I got some campaign letters that I mailed out a year ago is now coming back to me. So, so this is why I'm saying you can't wait until, because now, bear in mind, we did have a sorting center here in Fayetteville.
Right, which
That
is now in Charlotte.
it moved to Charlotte. So
Mhm.
all our mail goes to Charlotte and then sorted back.
Mhm.
So when that was in itself adds a day onto the delivery process, and you keep your hand crossed. to see whether the postal system is going to send it back to you within 4 days.
Right.
So that's going to be a lot of votes are going to be somehow not counted.
Well,
That's a
hopefully, it will also encourage people to go back to the standard of voting in person. If you are able bodied and capable, vote in person. If you are military, if you are, overseas for some reason, or if you are out of the city and you need to have your ballot counted, okay, because I think that was the original intent for mail-in ballots. But if you are able-bodied, you are in the city, make an effort to either make it to early voting or to make it to the polls on the day of, sure to be. There's some responsibility that we all hold. Now, I did hear somebody talking about, I can't remember where she was from, but she was an elected official from another state, and she was questioning somebody. And one of the things, of all of the amendments, when it comes to voting, all of the amendments were to increase access to. I think that we cannot negate personal responsibility in this. And so while I should say the post closes 7:30, what time the post office close, we all got to know that, and we have to govern ourselves. How they say at church, govern yourself accordingly.
But Teach, when you look at it, the post office itself has on this blue boxes last pickup 7 p.m.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 7 p.m. And I don't believe they pick that blue box. They pick up on Sunday, and I think Saturday is a little bit earlier. And so when you look at that, a lot of votes may not be counted there. And so, like you mentioned, I have always had a problem as an elected official with absentee ballots
Mm-hmm.
and mail-in ballots. I have
Mm-hmm.
always had a problem with that. Now they require two signatures. Now they want to go back, teach now, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I got my license, we didn't have penmanship in high school when I was there. And so my signature is nowhere going to look like it was when I first got my driving license.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you go to the DMV, they sign on that little board there
That pin.
with your signature. I mean, all of these things is going to be part of that process. And then getting two persons to say that Ted is who he say that he is, and that's that's enough. And then the board of election, they want to make the board of election four. Now it's five, and whoever is the governor uh, has the extra one, would mean that that party has three and the other party have two. Now, having said that, if you do eight, four on the House, four on the Senate, with the majority leader and the leading party has two, and the minority leader has two. So you can also, with that formula, appoint unaffiliated members to that committee. But democracy at its best, teach mean that the party that's in charge must approve your appointment.
Controls.
Okay, to
Mm-hmm.
remind
Absolutely.
you that the party in charge must approve who you want to select to serve on this committee.
Absolutely.
Now, when you look at it, and Ted keep those data, you got about 2.7 or 4 million unaffiliated. Likewise, then the Democrats come in second, and
Mm-hmm.
then the Republicans come in like with 2.1 a million registered voters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you look statewide, we have two U.S. senators. We lost all appellate court, all Supreme Court, and if you ran statewide, you didn't fare too well.
Yeah. Well, and I know we didn't talk about this, and I'm not about to open it up for a whole conversation, but I just want to mention, y'all know Tom Tillis is up there being censored right now, so you
Oh,
know.
yeah, the Republican
Yeah,
Party.
they said just be quiet.
Well, and, and again, it's a unique thing. Both parties, the Democrat, you have two party states, Democrat and Republican. the both parties need to look at how they are going to look at 24 election. And messaging is the key. The Democrats, the party that I'm affiliated with, cannot continue to do what it is doing and want to get and take charge of the House and Senate. We
Oh,
will.
but they will keep doing it.
I know, but the end results. See the end. I mean, look at the end results. We had 30. We had 40 seats unchallenged.
Mr.
But
Floyd, but
you
that's
say you
that's
want to
not
take
going to
over the
change
House.
nothing because they really that this is the party of the LGBTQIA. They are going to continue to push that agenda. That is the agenda that they are going to continue to stand by. They're going to continue to say racism at every turn. They're going to continue to assail anything that makes a modicum of sense and continue to stand behind all of the foolishness. And you just wait and see and watch and
I
mark
pray
my
to,
word.
I pray to, is that they will change that message. Okay,
We'll
that they
see.
will run a more conservative offense.
How you tell me, Mr.
Running
Floyd?
on,
One can hope. I want to hit on two more things before we get up out of here. The one that I want to hit on is the marijuana legalization bill that split in the caucus on the House side. So what are we gonna see? Because y'all know I just think that's foolishness too. Legal. I was talking to a physician the other day, and this person said to me, if we look at marijuana and consider it medicinal, that is inaccurate because marijuana is an herb in its natural form, not a medicine, which would mean that it should be governed by the standards of herbalists. So the people who, you know, live in that world and not medical physicians. So, with that being said, what they were saying is the terminology medicinal marijuana is actually not a valid terminology. But I say to that, marijuana cannot be an herb because it is now so synthesized and so filled um with chemical components that increase the feeling of high, that it ain't even the weed that people think it is. So I am solidly against the legalization of marijuana. So where are we at with that bill? I want to know how I'm faring as a citizen.
well, Tish, if Ted would allow me, well, there's so many unlicensed drugstores,
Absolutely.
and we are just not getting any taxes from these
And
unlicensed
that's the
drugstores.
issue. That
Okay,
right there is the issue.
okay. Now, remind you now, we can't print money like the federal government, so we have to generate money, just like we did with the lot. I mean, with the gambling bill. So when we look at it, it's another revenue generated bill, showing that the state, as you know, can't collect money off of it.
That's
So it's a
it.
money driven bill.
That's
So
it.
having having said that, it cleared the Senate, and it was somewhat bipartisan.
Hmm.
Now, over at the House side, you got 72 members, and 36 members of that caucus is opposed. So a wise speaker looks at 36 and 36 is 72. My caucus is divided, and I sure enough can't count on the Democrats to to come over here and give me the 61 votes that I need. And if the governor vetoed it, do I have the 72 to override the governor veto? So leadership looks at that. I already have a split party. That's why it's not moving in the House. And I can't count on the individual who say that I will support you today, but I have allegiance to the executive branch,
Right.
and I can't make this obligation at this time.
Hmm.
So the bill will be stalled.
So Ted, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was told that the Speaker of the House or the President pro tem of the Senate, I think they call him, when they look or they caucus or their party, they typically would not bring a bill to the floor unless that that leadership believes he has the votes to pass. So, based on what Mr. Floyd said, with the House being split right now, um, I think Mr. Floyd's right that the you only got they're getting ready to do the budget and end for the year. So it may wait until the short session,
Okay.
um, potentially, because what looking at the House and the Senate calendar each morning, right now each chamber is hearing more and more of the other chambers' bills, for
Okay.
concurrence. And then there's a couple that are like the voter ID and stuff. They're doing amendments or this or that. So, um, based on what Mr. Floyd said, it probably won't even come up for a vote on the floor this year. If that if the
But they
Republican.
can hammer out their differences, like you said, in
Hmm.
the short session, or they can hammer out their differences, in between meetings. But when you have that much of a gap,
Right,
36, it's sort of hard to come to 61 and then 72.
right. Now,
It's it's,
I had a
it's hard.
question. Um, they're gonna they're not gonna close down for the year until they complete the redistricting. Um, the U.S. Supreme Court still has. They heard the case already back in December, 3 hours, about the the legislature doing congressional maps, and once the North Carolina Supreme Court overturned the previous North Carolina Supreme Court on the redistricting, the U.S. Supreme Court asked all parties to submit whether documentation, opinions, whether the U.S. Supreme Court still has jurisdiction, and it was split. But basically, they said yes because North Carolina voted, on North Carolina, but it's a U.S. constitutional issue before the U.S. Supreme Court, and so
Hmm.
when they put their briefs in, many said yes. You're you're adjudicating the U.S. constitutional language about legislators, well, legislature, um, setting the time, place, and manner for the, the what do you call it? The congressional maps. Uh,
But tell you, when you look at it, if you look at the Constitution, the NC, it gives the General Assembly the authority to
mm-hmm,
draw maps.
mm-hmm,
Only the General Assembly. Now, when we hear every party that's in the minority during this cycle, during the election
mm-hmm,
cycle, saying that when they become in charge of the chamber, then they are going to do go by a congressional committee to draw maps. That's both
mm-hmm.
NC maps and also U.S. maps. But you got to look at it whether that elected body is going to give away or either put it on a ballot to take away one of their constitutional amendments that is
Hmm.
to draw districts. And I don't see that's coming from any elected body to
Right,
put it on the ballot to pass it going up
right. So
to a committee.
yeah, so to tie back my point to medical marijuana, since the General Assembly will convene again, this fall, they have to
Hmm.
really do it July or August, because of the filing
The
window
map.
coming up. Yeah. So when the General Assembly, the House and the Senate comes back in to vote on these redistricting maps, can they also, if the House thinks they could pass the medical marijuana, can they bring that bill?
Now, when they recess, they will reconvene at a specific date and a specific time, covering specific topics. That
Okay,
don't mean they cannot add to to that, because they can amend it to take it up. But bear in mind, now you got a 90 days window from the primary. As Tish mentioned earlier, you got 60 days to get the ballots out. Okay, and that's to those person overseas and whatnot. But you also need a 30-day plus in order to print the ballot, to make sure that everything is in order before you mail the ballot out. So you're looking at 90 days to 120 days to make sure that you have everything, where people won't say that, oh, we screwed up, they didn't have enough time to get the ballot out, it wasn't reviewed, and all of that. That's why you're looking at a 60 plus 30 is 90, and it would be better if it had at least 100 plus 20 plus days in order to make sure that the ballot is printed and everyone understands how the 24 election is going to move forward.
right, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, the last thing I want to bring up, and this is not to go all deep and in depth, but I want to point out a couple of inconsistencies with a story that's kind of been pushed out into the media, and that is about this alienation of affection lawsuit against Speaker Tim Moore. I don't know people's personal business, so I did not know until I asked today, is he married?
Mm-mm.
And the answer is no,
No,
right?
right.
No,
So
they're not.
this is not a case of two married people having an affair with each other. This is a case of a single man, a married but separated woman.
Well,
That's what
T,
I
let me say this,
understand.
T. Let me say like this, T. You have to look at take each situation. Both male and female can be misled in relationships,
Oh, for sure.
and I'll leave
But
it at that.
that's the point I'm trying to make is made to sound like he leveraged the speaker of the house to sleep with me. When in actuality it's beginning to sound more like that's
Well, only
and
thing
I
I'm
don't
saying, T,
condone, let me say this, I don't condone any type of extramarital affairs on any part, but I think that's a more issue and not a legal. But I know that because of our laws in the state of North Carolina, people can sue somebody if they take your man or your wife. Aware of that. I probably should have sued that hussy that was first husband, but she ain't have nothing worth taking, and she didn't get nothing. So
well, well, T, I mean, we are one of the few states that have this, and just last month there
right.
were two cases. One came out to be 8 point some odd million, and another one was 2.5 million that was bought by a couple, by individuals, uh,
Hmm.
you know,
Wow.
for this. So you have to look at it from a standpoint.
Actually winning these lawsuits.
Yes, yes, they're winning the lawsuit, but the person must prove to you. That's the key. Now you just can't make a statement. You must prove that the statement that you make. Now you got the risk also being countersued. Okay.
I just feel like people need to be with who they gonna be with, and they need to stop being with who they don't want to be with. And I guess that's the long and the short of what I wanted to say about this. Y'all out here, and not you gentlemen, but folks are out here having these extramarital relationships. If you don't want to be married, be unmarried.
Hmm.
Be unmarried. And if it's complicated, uncomplicated. But that's just my 2 cents. I think that sometimes it can be very distracting when we have legislators that find themselves in these positions because we look to our legislators to make good decisions. But let me tell you something, when it comes to matters of the heart and relationships, everybody plays the fool sometimes. there's no exception to the rule. And so maybe this was just his time. I don't know what it is, but most certainly I hope he cleans this mess up so that he can get on with the business of the state of North Carolina. If there's a lawsuit to be had, I hope that whoever's supposed to win wins. And I hope that these three individuals, this man, these two men and this woman, figure their stuff out and get that handled so that it doesn't have to be front page news at a time like this. Y'all want to talk about anything else before we wrap this session?
Mhm.
No,
No.
Tish, I thank you, Tish, and remember now, you also got there's two sides to every story there, and and thing that you had to look at is understanding that that process. You got attorneys that can represent our end.
Right. And the reality is that neither side is really any of our business.
Yes,
Hmm.
that is very true, Tish.
So, with that being said, Mr. Floyd, there's what?
So much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, Tish. That I pray that we quit talking about the rest of us.
Ted, what you got to close us out?
Hey, just have fun. 2 weeks from tomorrow, municipal election filing starts for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll start seeing who's going to run for Fayetteville City Council and all the municipalities in Cumberland County.
Tish,
Like, share, go
Tish,
ahead.
before we go, my question to you, so on that the listeners know, are you and Ted planning on running in the municipal election?
No.
Mr. Floyd, if I said yes, what would you say?
Well, that's your prerogative.
I don't want none of this dookie on my feet.
Uh,
I ain't stepping in that.
because going forward, Tish, it's going to be a little bit unique now when we start. I mean, in closing that, I mean, really going into 24, going into 25 and 26, it's going to be some difficult years to make
Hmm.
a lot of financial decisions and maintain friendship.
Not only that, Mr. Floyd, but we have to look at what's happening nationally and recognize that we are on the verge of a collapse of our economy. We are literally, and people are not really paying attention to that, but we are literally, we are in more debt now than we have ever been. And I mean, like, multiplied from what we've ever been. It is, we owe people that hate us. We are on the verge of an economic collapse.
I just
And
hope, Tish,
so,
I just hope that as we close, that as we move forward into the 25, 26, 27, that we have a soft landing instead of a hard landing because right now things are skyrocketing as it relates to cost of living. So I
there
just
you
hope that
go.
we have a soft landing.
And we'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and we'll see you next week.